You're very welcome to the two-man wall with Johnny Ward and Adam Russell, who has told me straight away on Star Sports that we're not going to talk about the Nations League, which also means we're not going to talk about the European playoffs because Ireland lost to Slovakia. How are you, Adam?
Yeah, it's never nice to go out on penalties, is it? But yeah, this is a Nations League free zone from this point on. So that's what the people need in these tough times. We don't need any more of that doom and gloom talk. Let's get straight back onto the Premier League.
Well, speaking of doom and gloom, what is your weekly moan? Project Big Picture.
Oh yeah, you know how I feel about this already. I think it feels more like Project Big Six, and it feels obviously like a power grab more than a proposal to try and help the EFL. I think Ian Holloway, former Blackpool manager, as you'll know, was on TalkSport yesterday, and I think he described it best. He said it's the Premier League have got a gun to the head of the EFL because the Premier League have essentially offered a £25 million bailout for the Football League, and the chairman of the EFL, Rick Parry, thinks that it'll probably take more like 250 million.
Right.
And therefore, he's kind of got no choice at this stage but to consider Project Big Picture if he wants to get the kind of money that clubs are going to need. We've seen today that 6 championship clubs have told the EFL that they're not sure that they'll be able to survive the season if plans remain as they are. I mean, the Premier League spent 1.2 billion in transfers just last month, and now they're offering a measly 1.25 million to save the structure of the English game. It's just not good enough. And I think obviously this isn't the right solution. I don't agree with scrapping the League Cup. I think the danger of, at the minute, the Premier League operates under a 14-club majority rule. So any new rule changes have to be agreed by a majority of 14 clubs, whereas this proposal essentially makes it possible for new rules to be passed by just the top 6 clubs alone. So it obviously seems like a power grab. The positives of it are 250 million up front to the EFL, which is exactly what Rick Parry's asking for, and then 25% of PL revenue every year from then on, which is obviously a substantial amount of money and something that the EFL desperately needs. The ownership structure in the Football League is broken. It was 19 out of 24 clubs in the Championship spent over 100% of their income on wages last season, which is completely unsustainable unless you get promoted to the Premier League. So
you are a Bolton fan. You're speaking from the heart here.
Well, yeah, exactly. And we fell into the trap that is the only real viable funding plan at this point, which is to try and spend a lot of money to get into the Premier League where the big bucks are made. And if you can't do that and you get relegated and you fall down the division, then you suddenly find that you're in big trouble. So it's good that the discussions have opened up about doing something. I just think these measures are just not the right step at this point.
Yeah, feel free to tweet us on the Star Sports Twitter account because it is a pretty elitist game in England at the moment. Lots of clubs struggling with very uncertain futures. Liverpool and Everton this is the early game on Saturday. You think of the atmosphere that would be at this game if there were a crowd. I mean, the 12:30 start's not ideal, but it's going to feel a bit strange. How do you think it'll factor in terms of prices, and also the fact that Everton have probably been, in some respects, the most impressive Premier League team so far this season. Yes, at home to Liverpool, their odds are 14-5. Would that tempt you?
No, and I'm going to tell you why. I think it's 10 years on Saturday. It'll be 10 years to the day since Everton beat Liverpool in the Premier League, and obviously the narrative of the game is essentially, can they do it? Like you say, they've been impressive so far this season. They've obviously got a win over Spurs on the opening day, so they've proven they can beat top 6 opposition so far this season. The only thing I would say is criticism of Liverpool in the Villa game was that their line was too high and that they didn't rectify that at any point, and the Villa players were getting in behind time and time again. We know that particularly Richarlison's not really known for running in behind. I think James Rodriguez has only made 8 sprints so far all season, so he's not going to be a particular danger to Liverpool running in behind. Everton are going to have to do a lot more work without the ball compared to what they've done against the likes of Brighton. And I just think that Everton have averaged 54% possession so far this season, and they're not going to get that against Liverpool. So it's, can they get into a good structure defensively and keep Liverpool out? And I think we've seen so far this season that no one's really capable of keeping anyone out. So no matter what, I think based on what we've seen so far from these two, I'd definitely be looking at at both teams to score, that's for sure. I think obviously Everton have an outside shot, but for me, they're not going to win. I think Liverpool will win. I think both teams will score. I think they'll be over 3.5 match goals, and that comes out 7-2 with starsports bet, which I think is reasonably good value for a game like this.
Yeah, both teams score 8-15, which you'd have to say looks pretty safe. I'm not going to lie to you, Adam. One of the things I miss about my whole life was I used to do a radio slot at 3 o'clock talking about football in town, in Dublin town, every Saturday. And then me and my colleague Dan, around about 10 to 5, as the show is coming to a conclusion, we kind of come up with a bit of interest in the late game, the half-5 game, and we go to the pub. All of these things are no longer with us. Well, not at the moment anyway. We're recording from home. We don't go into town and the pubs are closed. But the game this week would be perfect. Man City v Arsenal. And you can have a little sneaky wager on the Gunners at 11-2, which to me is actually a big price.
Yeah, like say, I think maybe one day we'll have to organise a recording so we can go in the pub afterwards, John, even if we do record at lunchtime.
Yeah, I've already been on to Jordan. I'm going to Hove whenever this is over.
Brilliant. I'll see you there. If this is ever over, of course.
If it's ever over, yeah.
Yeah. As for the Man City Arsenal game, my major concern for Arsenal is their record against City is not that great. They've lost.
Did beat them when they last met
in the FA Cup, but they've lost all the last 6 in the Premier League, and they haven't beaten them in the Premier League since December 2015. Obviously, they beat them in the FA Cup final. Make of that what you will. I think this is the perfect test, really, of the longevity of Arteta's system of the 3-5-2, because you'd expect it on paper to be exactly the type of game where that system should work perfectly and sort of give them the advantage on the counter against Man City. A major concern for City, of course, will be Kevin De Bruyne's injury scare against England earlier in the week. So if he does miss the game, that's obviously going to be a huge miss for them in the middle of midfield. Looking at Foden and kind of Bernardo Silva, are they going to be able to break down that Arsenal back line? Maybe we'll see. I'm going to take them on though this week. I think Arsenal, I've criticised them in the past and I'm not taking them on when maybe I should have done. And I think at 6-1 with the City's form and maybe a lack of confidence going into the game, and obviously missing Kevin De Bruyne, then I think Arsenal have got a great chance at 6-1.
Leeds Wolves as well. A fascinating game later on in the weekend with Leeds marginal favourites. But let's just talk Champions League before you go as well. We're not far away from that. What sort of markets should punters be looking out for here?
Well, Star have launched their outright markets ahead of the first round of fixtures next week.
Let me guess, who's favourite? Man City?
I think, Man City, Bayern Munich levels at the minute. And I'm looking for a bit more value. There's not a great value in Man City this season in the Champions League. The team that I like are Juventus. I think the squad is absolutely packed with quality now. They've signed quite well this summer. And pretty much every year, their sole focus is to win the Champions League, because Serie A is basically a formality to them. They'll have to contend with Barcelona in their group, but other than them, they shouldn't have an issue with qualifying. And obviously, never say never for a Champions League team that's got Cristiano Ronaldo in it. 14-1, I really like Juventus.
14-1 Juve, and you can get basically 7-1 that they get to the final as part of your each way bet. Liverpool at 11-2, who I think might prioritise the competition a bit more than they did last year. City at 4.
Another market that leads us on to that is we've got a market on which English team will progress the furthest. And again, they've got Man City out in front at 21-20, Liverpool at 11-4, not far behind, Chelsea 8-1, and Manchester United at 11-1. Not sure there's much value in Chelsea and United. Again, it seems toss-up between Liverpool and Man City. I'd probably go, just for the value, I'd probably go 5-4 for Liverpool. They've got a deeper squad than they had in previous seasons, which I think will help them. They've obviously got great experience in the competition. There's no African Cup of Nations this year, so Mane, Salah and Keita will be available for them all season. And I just think Man City have lost a lot of experience in recent seasons, and that might count against them in sort of the latter stages, as we've seen in previous years.
I would tend to agree. Enjoy the football over the weekend. It's a Nations League free zone, and we will talk to you next week, Adam.
Once again, enjoy the sun. It looks like another nice day over there in Ireland.
And that was the two-man wall.